for a while to drive the 2024 Kia EV9. It's an all-electric 3-row SUV, and 3 rows are right up my alley because I've got 3 kids to help test out whether it makes a really good family car or not. I love the Kia Telluride and even the Kia Sorento, which can be had as a PHEV. I also like the Kia Carnival, which will be a hybrid as of next year. However, this is new and we've never tested an all-electric 3-row SUV, so we were really excited to get into it and had high hopes for it. Let's see how well it does without having a level 2 charger in our garage. A few quick facts before diving into this review. We're testing out the top land trim, which starts at $64,995. But when you add the GT line package featured here, it bumps the price another $14K, which is quite a bit of money for this family hauler. This 6-seater, which can be had with 7 seats, has 2 motors in the all-wheel drive land trim and gets 379 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. While the regular land trim has a driving range of up to 451 kilometers, the GT line gets up to 435 kilometers of range. This tested EV9 has a 99.8 kilowatt per hour battery that can be charged from 10 to 80% in 24 minutes using a 350 kilowatt DC fast charger, or in just under 9 hours with a level 2 charger at your home. But first things first, how do we turn it on? So behind the steering wheel here, we've got a little power button, and it's on a stick thing that honestly could be mistaken for the windshield wipers one, but it's a bit lower. That's not so much my issue. I do think that if you drive this for a while and you own this vehicle, that you'll get used to it, but after a week of driving it, it's still got me stumbling a bit, and I still have to sort of consciously think about putting the car into reverse or drive and reaching for here. Also, I don't know if this is a height thing, but where my vision is, it's completely blocked, so I have to kind of look at it. And on that note, another thing that I'm going to quickly complain about, but not complain too much, is the climate control setup. It's not horrible. It actually is pretty intuitive and works really well, but again, my issue is that you've got to sort of peer around this steering wheel to see the whole setup right down here. There are a few hard touch buttons down here that make it easier for your passenger as well as you, so you can flick the fan settings and then the temperature settings. But anything else you need, if you want to do the modes and get it like on just your feet or whatever, then you've got to actually come around the steering wheel behind it and click one of these buttons here. Again, not the worst thing, just a little bit distracting to have to go around, but it could be worse. At least it's easy to use. If it were up to me, I would say that we need it moved over just slightly a bit into the infotainment screen. The only issue with moving it over to the infotainment screen is then you either have to move that over and then that would be too far for your arm to reach over, or it goes into the screen, which we've seen before. So I don't know if Kia was trying something new. I don't know if it really worked out. For me, I'd rather just to be in the screen. And then, you know, maybe you have a little button down here, like on this haptic setup, where you can just press that. And speaking of those haptic buttons, if you're like me and generally touch the screen with your arm resting on it, then you'll realize, as I did, that those buttons are haptic and take you to different modes on the screen. There's home, map, search, media, your favorite button, and setup. Going into the home, you can easily see everything. I think at first glance it looks a little confusing, but it's actually not that bad. It's pretty easy to use once you get the hang of it. And if you are wirelessly connected to Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it's really easy to use. There's also a wireless phone charger right in here, and you can just slide your phone in. You've got a lot of different things that you can do right from there, as well as click right back into Android Auto if you need to. But I just wanted to take a second to look at this EV setup. So you can see exactly where your battery is going and how much it's using. So you've got drivetrain. If you're using electronics, it'll show you how much battery is going to that. And then it also shows you how much your climate is using. You can see that if you click the climate controls off, so whether it's heat or AC that you're using, as long as it's off, your kilometer mileage actually bumps up a little bit. So it gives you a bit back, and it's actually quite a bit. So I mean, I don't know, if you don't really need to use it, probably keep it off. That would be great. So the front seats in here are actually super comfy, and I think I went the wrong way, but that's okay because that gives me a chance to make a U-turn and show how easy it is to maneuver this car. Let's just pull over here for a second and back in reverse and drive. The backup camera in here is actually really great, really clear, really easy to see everything. There's a surround view camera in here in this top of the line trim. So you will have to pay a little extra if you want that surround view in here, but it's a really great camera. As I was saying, the front seats are super comfortable. You can adjust them in a whole ton of ways, as is per usual now, especially in higher trims. But this one also has an ergo motion seat, not called massage seats like most cars do, but it's called ergo motion, and I appreciate that because it doesn't make me feel like I am going to get a really good massage. So I can't really complain about it because it's not a massage. It's just something that like is a light touch. Yeah, it feels a little bit like, you know, a little kid kind of kicking you in the back gently, although I don't know what kid kicks you gently, but regardless, it's actually not that bad and it works really well, but it's just for the driver, and in this car the passenger doesn't have one. The second row in here has two captain's chairs. They are pretty comfortable. My kid really loved that they are ventilated in here. Again, that is something that comes along with the higher trims and you pay for that. Moving back, the third row actually does not have very much legroom back there. It's got a little more than the Sorento, which is very limited, but the difference in this one is that with that third row up, you've actually got quite a bit of cargo space. In a lot of three-row SUVs, that's not the case. You have very limited cargo space along with limited third row legroom. And here, yes, there's limited third row legroom, although my 8-year-old did fit pretty well in there. But yeah, you've got quite a bit of cargo space, to the point of where I'd almost wouldn't mind if they took a little bit of space out of that bottom cargo and added it to legroom in the third row. But I don't know the logistics of how those things work, so I don't know if that can be done, but it would be an option. And you'd still have very like adequate cargo space use behind the third row. That said, if you put that third row of seats down, it opens up a ton more space back there, and you can fit pretty much anything, large stroller, double stroller, whatever you need. I also really like simple additions to cars. So for example, the center console, while there's not much space in the center console for the driver or people up front, it's kind of nice that your second row passengers have access to it because they're the ones that are going to throw all their toys and stuff in there anyway. So it actually pulls out into a little tray, which again is part of the more expensive model, but it pulls out and then you can push that tray back and open up a large cargo space. Just keep in mind that while that top is rubber, I would assume that while you're driving, stuff is going to fall off of there. So I wouldn't put a drink in there, use the cup holders for that. There's not a whole lot of storage space up front for the driver and passenger up here, but if you don't have any cups, this cup holder can be pushed in so that it just becomes a little space to hold stuff, which is kind of cool. Gives you a little bit of extra space since you don't get the extra center console space. As for the drive, it picks up really smoothly. It drives really nicely. It's a great car. It feels great. One of the cool things about it is it actually has a self-driving feature, and it works really well. As I've used it throughout the week over and over again, you just stick it in auto drive and it goes for you, whether you're on the highway or on, you know, local roads. On local roads, it'll tell you when to grab the steering wheel, especially if you're at a stoplight and you get to a lane that doesn't have the two sides marked clearly. It'll tell you to grab the steering wheel. Also in like a roundabout type of situation, anything that it's unclear of, it'll tell you to grab the steering wheel, and then you take over for a bit, and as soon as it's ready, you can just, it'll tell you again and you just let go of the wheel and you're good to go. It's pretty great, actually. It's not as advanced as some of the ones like GM Super Cruise switches lanes for you in some of those more expensive models. This isn't that, but it'll help on really long drives. Obviously, being an EV, it's super, super quiet. That said, one day I accidentally left the car on for half an hour because I just wasn't thinking and couldn't hear anything that it was on, and so I just left it on. Luckily, I happened to look at my phone and saw that it was still connected to Android Auto and got kind of confused, so went into the car and realized that that was why. Once you've made the mistake once, you're not going to do it again, so, cool. Aside from the awesome shade of ocean blue that my kids really loved, and honestly so do I, my 8-year-old went on to ask me if this was the best car of the year. I was a little taken aback by the question because while it is a really cool car and was voted World Car of the Year as well as Women's Worldwide Car of the Year, I wasn't sure what exactly stood out to him specifically. Apparently, he, much like myself, really liked that storage space that opened up into the second row. Though he did say he'd like it more if there was a rear seat entertainment, to which I'll have to agree to disagree. He was also pretty excited about the ventilated seats in the second row, but he's not the one paying the bills, and losing those things as well as a few other minor creature comforts means saving nearly $15,000. And I like a starting price of $65K way more than $80,000. One of the things that I really like about the EV9 is that its identity isn't being an electric vehicle, even though it literally is called the EV9. It's a great overall family car and a great 3-row SUV. It's got lots of space, lots of cargo space, it drives smoothly, it's easy to maneuver, it's got great electric mileage as we've seen after driving it for almost a full week and not needing to charge it yet. I think the Kia EV9 is more than up to the task of being a great family vehicle. For Driving.ca, I'm Renita Narain. For more EV news and reviews, check out our website and don't forget to check for our full written review over there as well.